104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, Dark Side of the Stream, episode 128. This week was Jay's pick. It is an awesome documentary, so we're going to get right into it. It's called UFOs Investigating the Unknown.
Terrible name.
Awful name.
Right out the gate. Don't let the name fool you.
You hear these stupid UFO, what's in the sky, discovering the secret. The Moment of Contact one I thought was a really good name.
Yeah, that's a good name.
Which we did 2 weeks ago. And interestingly enough, the guy who directed that is also in this one, documentary.
Well, this documentary, it's brand new. And I think the thing that made this one stand out from all the other UFO documentaries is this is all government officials. This is all pilot. This is all not crackpots out in the woods saying, hey, man, I saw some lights. It's actual.
And it's not the ancient alien guy
people,
with crazy hair. Yeah, we're talking about lawmakers.
Yeah.
We're talking about guys that worked at Minutemen silo sites.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about pilots not only in the United States Air Force, the United States Navy, but across the world. The Israeli pilot story was unbelievable.
I've heard about
got into a dogfight with one. Unbelievable.
Jammed his radars, man.
The point of this whole documentary, and again, they beat this home, so this isn't really a spoiler alert, but it's the fact that most of the time, 80% of the time, they can explain what these are. And all the way back in Operation Blue Book, the scientists they tasked with figuring out what was going on in the 50s and 60s, some scientists from Ohio kept coming back to the fact that 20% of the time couldn't explain it. Yeah. So we went back to the government and said, hey, I mean, 80% of the time, we know what this is. We know it's this, we know it's this, blah, 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 blah. But 20% of the time, consistently, we cannot tell what these things are. We don't know if they're aircraft. We don't know where they're from. We don't know anything about them. And based off what we know about physics, what we know about the technology we have, this shouldn't exist. So the idea is that if we can't explain this, regardless of it, if it's Martians from Mars or Uranus or whatever it is,
hey now,
you need to look at this from a scientific, you need to step back and look at it scientifically, because it poses threats to our military aircraft. It could pose threats to our commercial aircraft.
Which is what these pilots are saying now. And the same things they're witnessing all way back then, or they're witnessing now, the same things that they do, the same movements. Coming over the missile base and messing with the codes.
No. We don't spill that, because that's a whole segment by itself, because that is in one of the craziest stories. But so the scientist, after 20 years of working with Operation Blue Book, says, screw it. I'm out. You guys don't want to listen to me.
Yeah.
You want me to just say what you want me to say.
He was shutting it all down, and then he's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, eventually, because
they
kept saying, you need to say this. You need to just kind of make it look like these people are crazy. And this is what we want you to say. And he was like, screw that. If it poses risk to our government and our way of life, we need to be more. And so from the 70s and 80s until his death, he was the guy that was like, look, I'm not going to tell you that it's aliens. I'm not going to tell you what it is. We don't know what it is. I'm just saying that we need to recognize that this is something that does exist. It's valid. And we need to study it.
And which is literally what the congressional hearings just a few months ago said, the same thing.
Which is what he's been fighting for since the early 70s.
Said the same thing, man.
I mean, it's crazy. And the idea is that most of the time these pilots wouldn't say a word, because they were scared that, again, if you go on record saying, hey, I saw a spacecraft, well, when you go for promotion, that's going to be on record.
Yeah.
And there are so many stories, including ones that involve military and commercial. And we'll talk more about UFOs investigating the unknown. Dark Side of the Stream next on 104.7 The Cave. .7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio discussing episode 128, Dark Side of the Stream, UFOs investigating the unknown. So kind of set the tone of how this thing goes. It's from a scientific perspective. There's no crazy ancient alien guy or whatever. Not to say that those guys don't know what they're talking about, but
they get a little passionate sometimes. They get a little passionate.
It really started with, and it continues with, this journalist who had, for the last 30, 40 years, has focused on this specific
topic
and not really like done anything else. And she has subscribed to what we're saying here and what everyone is saying now, which is, look, this is some crazy stuff. All these reports are insane. across the world, not just the United States government. But we need to take them valid. And if 20% of these are unknown, we need to say, okay, well, then let's figure out what it is. And if we can't, we need to say we don't know. And finally, after 40, 50 years, the government is saying, we don't know.
Yeah.
Which you would think that the world would at this point would be like, wait a minute, you're saying 20% of all these flying objects in the sky don't match anything that we have or know
these
about.
Guys are chasing them. These pilots are chasing them. They're not just some loons out there. These are the most skilled pilots in the world flying multi-billion-dollar machines, and they're saying this is what's going on, man.
There was
it's crazy.
Israeli pilot who got into a dogfight with one because he didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And as soon as he armed his missiles to go after it, everything just died. When he stopped pursuit, everything came back, and he just was like, screw this, I'm going home. He talked about it for years and years and years and years. There was the Japanese commercial pilot who was basically flying from Paris to Tokyo, and when they got over Alaska, had something following him. And he basically freaks out, calls the FAA and says, hey, look, there's something up here. I don't know what this is. Do you guys have some kind of training thing going on? They're like, we don't know. We don't know. And so this was during the period of time when the government's like, there's no UFOs. You're crazy. Don't worry about it. So the FAA instruct this pilot to like do a 180 turn and then a 360 turn. This thing follows him and everything he does until eventually it just disappears. Man. But then that guy goes in and takes all the data, all the radar data, all the telecommunication data, lays it out, says, look, I'm studying this to see if it was maybe an echo on the radar or some kind of natural phenomenon that we don't know, or it's something that we do know. Can't figure it out. Puts it in front of the CIA. They go, this is great.
Cool.
We're going to take it all. Thanks. And he's like, what do you mean? And he goes, you never met us? And he goes, well, what was it? It was a UFO. And then they leave.
They literally say
during the period of time when the government's saying UFOs don't exist. Yeah. So at the end of the day, again, like if there hasn't luckily been, as that we know of, a loss of life due to these things, whether it was military or commercial, but a lot of military pilots have said there have been very close near misses. Now, if that's just one of those things where these guys or whatever they are screwing with us, they're like, buzz them, boom, what are they going to do? But if a thing can literally turn on at a 90-degree angle and go 13,000 miles per hour, which whatever it wants, the underwater stuff, again, they bring that up. And that's a theory I've subscribed to for a long time, because they've got these things, they'll track them. They'll go underwater for a while and pop right back up. And my thing has always been, that's if you're an alien race and you want to hide, being in the sky is the dumbest thing in the world, because we can all look up. Go to the place where we've literally not searched like 90% of and hide there. If you can transverse universes and get here, no problem. Hiding underwater isn't going to be no problem. Should be no problem at all. And that would make sense. Why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? If they're silent, we have those, I guess, those things underwater where we can like hear whales and seismic movements and stuff. Yeah. God, I hope to God you're watching this.
That's my whale.
Was the best whale face I've ever seen in my life. But you would think, we're monitoring it. Well, if they're silent, you would have no idea. Yeah. And so the craziest story, though, Jay mentioned
next break, right?
Yeah, we got to talk about it next. The Minuteman silo incident, which it just blew my mind. We'll get to that next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. .7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 128. UFOs investigating the unknown. So they go through countless stories. I mean, it's and again, back to what Jay started this thing out. Pilots from not only the United States military, but all over the world. We have lawmakers, Harry Reid, who was really one of the catalysts for pushing this forward in the United States government. And then you got guys that literally worked for Department of Defense, different guys on the cabinet, and that have been
guys that work
intelligence,
with Bush, guys that work with Reagan. I mean, like legit people.
There was an individual, which that guy with the the giant soul patch beard. I hate that look, dude. Don't even, please, God, don't
do a
ever
soul
do
patch, dog.
that. The soul patch beard. Soul patch is fine. But like whenever
Oh,
you
just the
grow it
soul
out,
patch
like
beard.
come on, man, just grow a beard or don't,
Man, I mean, if I
whatever.
was gonna do that.
But that guy worked in the government and claims to have seen videos that we still have not seen to this day. He had the same problem that, what was it, Dr. Heinrich? Is that how I think that was his name?
Heinrich, right? And
Yeah.
you're talking about Lou Elizondo.
He had the same problem that he did, and eventually was like, look, I can't be involved in this if you're not going to listen to me when I'm saying these things could pose a threat to our people. And you're just like, well, screw it. And then screw you. I'm not going to deal with it. So it's interesting, these guys that have worked inside government that eventually have been like, you know what? Nah, screw you. You're not listening to me. So I'm going to do everything I can outside to change it. Yeah. So the Minutemen silo incident, there are, and probably still are in different locations, but at the time in the early 80s, I believe it was the 80s, during the Cold War, there was a silo, I think it was Montana. And all the time in the United States government, in the United States, we have these nuclear missile silos that are ready to go. Okay. Every one of these missiles are armed, lights green.
And there's
they're just sitting there
waiting,
just chilling.
Give us the word. Yep.
You say the word, you say the magic word, and boom,
because
we're going to go.
If there is a nuclear missile strike, you only have seconds to react.
Yeah, and we've got defense things in place and we know NORAD knows before anything, but we know. So these guys are sitting in there, and all of a sudden they get a call from, because they're 60 feet below the ground, and all of a sudden they get a call from a guard up at the top saying there are these orange lights up here just stationary above the silos. They're sitting here. And so some more guards go up, and eventually they call the commander of the site, who was, I believe, a undersecretary to the Department of Defense or something. He was a high up government official at one point. He gets a call from these guys, and they're freaking out. They're like, look, dude, we don't know what's going on. There are these orange lights are just sitting there. And he thought we were under attack, because the last thing he was thinking was that there were UFOs or anything. And so he basically tells them, do not let anything cross the fence, and hangs up. And he's like probably freaking out, because he's like, what the hell?
Yeah, how am I going to do this?
At that time, again, those missile silos are all armed and ready to go. Green lights across the board. Every now and then, one might fall off. If there's a connection that messes up, or a hiccup in the power or something, one might pop off. But when this was going on and they had all those guys up there, every single one of those missiles disarmed themselves at once. And everyone that was involved in this said that had never happened before.
Several bases this has happened.
And it's never happened since. Like the idea that they all just shut down at once.
These things fly over and they can shut down the codes.
They just shut it all down.
Ooh, man.
Which, honestly though, if we're going to talk about that, it is intelligent life. This could have been one of those incidents where they are from the future, or they're like preventing ourselves from blowing ourselves up, and all these incidents.
There's always a common theme about
where they're like, or they're just saying like, hey, dirtbags, don't be idiots, don't blow this place up,
you crazy monkeys.
I can literally turn it off in a second. You're not going to have any control. Just sit tight and be a cool dude. So that one was probably the most interesting story to me. Across the board, with especially when you have these guys who are career military dudes,
officials,
20, 30, 40 years in the service, no like crazy drug problems, they just serve, man. The other thing that I think was interesting I think the holdout from the government's perspective is that a lot of the video they do have from military aircraft do show our tracking ability. And I think that was probably for the longest time the reason they didn't want to release some of this stuff, because then the enemy knows, well, crap, they can do this, they can see this that quickly, or whatever it is, that detailed. At this point, it doesn't matter. I mean, we're probably more advanced than what we're seeing at this point anyway. So I think that was the holdback. But now, again, it's that 20% you can't explain, man.
You can't, this is the state of the art equipment. You can't say, oh, it was just some goofy equipment.
Yeah, it was faked.
Some crackpot.
20% of the time.
This is crazy.
Can't figure it out.
Man.
We're going to give it our Little Green Men review next. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 128 on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio one more time. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 128, UFOs Investigating the Unknown.
It's on Hulu, by the way.
It's on
where
Hulu.
You gotta watch
we
it.
didn't mention that earlier.
Yeah,
Good
watch
call.
it. It's probably the best UFO documentary, the most modern from a government and scientific perspective.
You kind of, at least in my opinion, like the Moment of Contact one I really liked because I'd never heard that story before. But like after years and years and years and years and years of being interested in this, I kind of hit a wall. It's kind of like the Marvel superhero movie thing. Like, dude, I don't want to see another superhero movie. Give me something that's completely out of the box.
This is a fresh one.
I'm over it.
This is fresh.
This was I have to commend you 1,000%. I'm going to give this 4.5 little green men.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 4. Yeah,
straight up. It's unbelievable. If you were into UFOs, if you're into
or just curious,
whatever,
if you're UFO curious,
yeah, it doesn't even have to be like you think it's an alien. You just the idea that we have 20% of these things that are. I mean, they get reports about this stuff every night.
Or even if you right now are going, Mike and Jay are out of their minds. What are they talking about? Just watch it. Even if you don't believe it all, check it out because it's very interesting.
Let's just say, for example, Heinrich was right, and they get a call every night, okay? Every night of the year, right? 73 days out of every year, they can't explain what's in the sky. Right. 73 days.
A lot.
A month and a half, 2 months, 3 months.
And, it seems like this stuff's been going on for a long time.
You look at
hieroglyphics and
forever.
stuff.
Yeah. And so again, going back.
Check it out, man. If you don't believe, check it out.
It's so good. It's so good. Now, the next documentary is my pick for Dark Side of the Stream. This is a very interesting story because still to this day, I don't think we really know what happened to it. MH370, the plane that disappeared, 3-episode series. Start on it early because it looks like it's going to be long, but I don't think we still really know what happened to that.
They still don't know. They just completely disappeared.
It's gone.
It's pretty insane.
How in the hell does
in this day and age
a Boeing 777
full of people,
massive airplane full of people, 239 occupants on this thing, gone.
Yeah, it's a good documentary. I've already watched it, so I'm ahead of the game.
Awesome. Well, I need to catch up, and that's what we're watching this week. Watch us live every Thursday 9 a.m. on Facebook or YouTube. You can hear the show as a podcast on our 104.7 The Cave app, or during my show 9 a.m. or Jay's show at 6 p.m. every Thursday. It's Dark Side of the Stream. I'm Mike the Intern. This is Jay Stevens reminding you
we watch
movies
documentaries
so you don't have to. I guess we're just